Hi, I'm Paul Seal, and this video is going to tell you 5 important lessons you should learn about delivering software. Those lessons are: 1. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. 2. Spend more time in the planning phase. 3. Allow more time for testing. 4. Keep track of how long things will take. And 5. Avoid shiny toy syndrome. So let's go over these points individually, and I'll just add a bit more detail about them. 1. So if there's a chance that you're not going to hit a deadline and your client's expecting it to be delivered by this deadline, or your boss is expecting this work to be done by a certain date, you need to let them know well in advance. If the deadline can't be moved, then they might be able to get extra resources to help you. But also, when you're planning out a job and you give a delivery date for your client or your boss, just think ahead and think, actually, this is probably going to overrun. Maybe add a bit of extra buffer time in there just to allow for that, so that when you agree a date, you're not agreeing the shortest possible time, the earliest date. You're agreeing a date, the earliest, with a bit of extra time on top. So yeah, basically, don't overpromise and then underdeliver. It's always better to, it's like if you go out at night and you tell your other half, oh, I'll be back for 12, and then just get back for 11:30. They'll be really impressed. It's better than doing that, saying I'll be back for 12 and then getting in for 1. Or so just do things like that. So don't overpromise and underdeliver. Number 2, spend more time in the planning phase. So people like to dive in straight away and write a load of code because they're eager to get going. But what you need to do is make sure you've got all the requirements that enable you to start work at this point. So I know we work with Agile these days, but even so, you need to have a good understanding of the project before you start it. Don't just go straight in there, writing the code, because you're going to come unstuck. So it's always a good idea to know exactly what you're going to do, even if it's just for this phase, for this sprint perhaps, if you're following Agile. So for this 1 week or 2 week sprint, you know the work that you're going to be doing. So make sure you spend more time in the planning phase that plans out, that dissects the project into these sprints, or gives it out to the different people. So yeah, that's the next one. So that is spend more time in the planning phase. Allow more time for testing. So this is one of the casualties when a project is overrunning. You usually reduce the testing time. We've all done it. So you've got a deadline, the client wants it, there's no way the deadline can be moved, you just write in the code, you're trying your best, you've got some automated tests, you've got some integrated tests, integration tests, unit tests, fantastic, but you still need to run through scenarios, you probably need people to use that. And one of those casualties when you're running short of a deadline is the testing phase. So if you allow more time for the testing phase, that will, if some of that time gets shaved off, at least you allowed more in advance, so you've allowed some time for that testing phase to be done. Keep track of how long things take. You see, when you're planning the next project, do you know how long this similar thing took on the last project? If you're not measuring it, you can't manage it. So it's always best to keep track of how long something took, not necessarily micromanaging or anything like that, it's just to understand. And that way you can assign a length of time for these tasks. So people use story points, or you could just basically use hours, or some people use how many Pomodoros it takes. So yeah, there's a technique called the Pomodoro Technique. I've written a blog post about it. If you have a look at my blog and search for it. I'll leave a link in the notes for this video as well. But basically that says that you should work in 25-minute blocks. So you should really focus for 25 minutes and you should not let anyone interrupt you, work on something really hard for 25 minutes and then have a 5-minute break. And just repeat that throughout the day. And you'll find that you'll be far more productive than if you were to allow yourself to be interrupted and things like that. But as I say, have a look on the blog post that I wrote on there. Avoid shiny toy syndrome. So when you're starting a new project and you're deciding on what technology to use, you might be tempted to go with the latest frameworks, or there's this brand new JavaScript framework, I really want to use it. You might be tempted to for all these other tools, but it's not always the best choice. The best reason for choosing something is because it's right for the job, not because you want to try it out. There might be some small projects that you can do, that you can try things out where it's not critical. But for an important project, don't just go with the shiny toy syndrome. Just try and pick the right tools for the job, even if it's what you've been using all this time. You use it. It's all about what's right for the job, not what's more attractive to use. If you want to learn other things, do it in your spare time, or like I say, do a less important project using that. Anyway, so that was the fifth one, avoiding shiny toy syndrome. So yeah, I just wanted to share these points with you, lessons that I've learned. So now when I go into a new project, I implement these. So I don't overpromise and underdeliver. I spend more time in the planning phase. I allow more time for testing. I keep track of how long things will take, and I avoid shiny toy syndrome. Okay, so I'm going to go off now and learn about how to use Node.js. But thanks for watching, and if you like the video, please click like, subscribe to my channel, leave any comments if you've got an opinion on this, and share it with others. I do appreciate all your comments that you're leaving, and yeah, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Alright, thanks for watching, bye.